So today I want to talk about something that a lot of people kind of don't talk about a lot, and that is depression.
Now if I wrote you a love note and made you smile at every word I wrote, would that make you wanna change your sleep?
Good morning, you guys. Welcome to my channel. If you've already been here, welcome back. I am Risi. Depression hits people so hard sometimes that a lot of people don't know how to cope with it. And what depression is, the short version of what depression is living in the past. And so when we get caught up in being depressed, it's because we're remembering something from the past, either remembering something that happened traumatic, an experience that we had that was traumatic, or circumstances that we wish were like they were then and they are not like that now. And I just want to discuss depression because I got hit with depression. A lot of people don't talk about how they're depressed, when they're depressed, and it's kind of like a dirty word in society. Like, nobody wants to admit that they have mental illness or has dealt with depression because society looks down on people who have mental illness or deal with depression. Yeah, this is my husband. And I can't find the phone in the purse. And he's gonna... Hello? Your wife is right here. Hi. I say your wife is right here. Hi. At the orthodontist office. Huh? I told you that. Oh, sorry. So maybe it wasn't today, but it was okay. It was last week. So I was saying how sometimes we have experiences that have happened that cause us to be depressed. And I got caught in a battle with depression. And yes, I'm a nurse, but I'm also a human that has things that have happened. And I guess I couldn't regulate. I don't know. I'm not going to give an excuse for why depression happens. I've been working on trying to regulate my emotions better now. But I got depressed because I got fired from a job. And now I do think like, so what? But in that moment, it wasn't a so what, because my feelings were hurt. And in my 24 years, I have always been liked, respected as a manager, respected as a boss. And that's the other thing too. I had been in management for several years, and I had a team, and I want to say my team loved me the way that I loved them. Not all the teams, but a couple of the teams loved me, and I had been in management for so many years. So coming out of that space and taking this role for me was just, hey, I want to work on my other things because I have other passions that I'm working on. I just want to do my work and get my check. And my personality and some of the other things that I was working on, they cited when they fired me, some of my other projects. But I was so hurt, and it was so many emotions. I was hurt because I saw what they were doing, and instead of them just early on saying, hey, we don't think this is a good fit, they tried to tarnish my character, which is false. Like, the things that they tried to say were false, right? And so And they weren't outright saying it. They were just doing little things to try to pick and say that, well, this wasn't done right, that wasn't done right. They were just picking on all these things. And then they came back and said I made all of these mistakes when I was in orientation. And I'm like, well, that's what orientation is. Somebody is sitting with you, training you how to do this job. So when you make mistakes in orientation, I thought that's what that was. But no, they made a thing. They came back after the fact, after I was out of orientation, found these mistakes, told me that I made them, wanted me to correct them like 3 months later. So I was like, okay, I don't know what this is. Why am I doing it? So then I started to speak up on the things that they were doing. And the only reason I started to speak up is because being in management, I understand the tactics that you guys are using. So now I'm speaking to those tactics. And being an educated African American woman, and quite often a minority in some of these corporate companies, they don't want you speaking up to them intelligently. Now, if I would have came in with the bum Quisha, like, yeah, you mother suckers, da, 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 why y'all talking to me like that? Y'all doing that to me, da, da, then I probably would have been okay. They would have been like, oh, bum Quisha's a fool. But, you know, they would have just whispered about me and then continued on. But no, I came with my intelligence, my education, my writing skills, and spoke to them how they were speaking to me, but eloquently. And that didn't fly. So I was fired. And then when they were picking on me, I knew that they were, because let me tell you something. And I want everybody to understand this. And I know this is about depression. I'm getting on a completely different rant. But when somebody is showing you who they are and how they're treating you, forget the words that they're saying, and don't let anyone else tell you that what's happening isn't happening. Because we as humans, we are all, I would like to say, innately good. And we all usually come from a place of love. So our intentions and our intentions are usually good. So when we encounter another human, it's with good intentions. We can feel when somebody is doing something that is not nice or kind and deliberate. So I could tell deliberately that I was being picked on, and I complained about it, and I probably, I'm not going to say I probably shouldn't. I did. I complained about it. And when I complained about it, it ruffled some feathers. And then I backed it up with the fact that, hey, I'm an intelligent person. I'm an educated person. I know how to write. I know how to speak. And I've been managing teams for a very long time. So I know what I'm doing here. And not that I know this job, I know what I'm doing, period. Like in a corporate setting, I know what I'm doing. So anyway, I got fired. And I was so hurt, because it was like, if you don't like my bald brush cut, which is how I was wearing my hair, like completely bald brush cut. If I don't fit with your aesthetic, then just say it's not working out. But don't try to diminish my education. Don't try to diminish my eloquence. Don't try to diminish the fact that I'm great. And I'm usually great at what I do. And I don't mince words by saying that. I don't. And it was more so a humiliation tactic to fire me. And it worked, because I crawled, you guys. I crawled into this shell, and I used to be so creative on TikTok. I used to make all these videos every day. I was happy, and I could not create. Nothing creative could come out of my body. When I say nothing, I could not create. I was in such a funk. And then I decided, you know what? I'm going to get over this. I'm going to work full time on some of my other passions. And I didn't get a chance to do that. I discussed it with my husband. And in that moment, he didn't think that that was going to suffice for our household, that I really needed to take another 9 to 5 gig. And so I went into this 9 to 5 job that I didn't want. And quite honestly, when I had got out of the funk, I had been praying and journaling, and I had been listening, and God had kind of given me an assignment to do. That's why I said I'm gonna work on this. So I'll tell you guys what it was. I did not have my real estate license at that time that I got fired, even though they accused me of selling real estate. I didn't have my license, and so I enrolled in a study course, a prep course for your test. I went every single day to this prep course. It was at night. I was driving to go sit and learn this prep course because I'm like, I'm fired. This is the perfect time to go all in into my real estate. And I have only did that once I had sat and prayed about it. And God was like, what you doing real estate for if you're not going to take the test and, work it now? And in that time, that would have gave me a great 6 months, because I got fired in May. So I would have had 6 months to really like hone in on that thing. But I didn't do that. I disobeyed God. And in disobeying what God told me to do, I suffered. I suffered the entire year that I was at the job that I took. I suffered, and I suffered because I was not supposed to be there, right? And that threw me into a deeper depression. Oh my goodness, you guys. I was depressed, like not making food. Like, well, I made food, but it was just, I was in such a funk that I wasn't fit. And then I was giving intimacy advice, because I do give intimacy advice as an intimacy coach. I couldn't even be intimate in my own household. And when I say intimate, I'm not talking about physical joining of bodies. I'm talking about I couldn't touch. I couldn't hold hands. I couldn't hug. I couldn't do any of the things that are intimate. And so, yeah, because I was depressed. And it took me some time to get over that. But the point of this rant is, hold on, you guys. You gonna go buy yourself something? You gonna buy something? You know how to use the card? You just put it in, use your zip code, and then.
What do you mean zip code?
Okay. And so I disobeyed God, and it threw me into a deeper funk, and I was in a place where I wasn't supposed to be. I was at a job that I wasn't supposed to be at. And I probably brought some of that same energy with me, because I started experiencing the same thing. I'm a little bit older than some of the people who were in it was people of all ages in management. But at one point it got to be where other people think that they can talk to you however they want to talk to you. These people think that they can say whatever they want to say to you. Doesn't matter your age, doesn't matter your experience, doesn't matter your education. And so when they were talking to me crazy, I was replying with emails. And so finally, I think somebody went, okay, this one is a problem. Because everything that they said to me, I replied with an email. Because now I'm going to keep a paper trail. Per our discussion on such, you said this. And that ended up being okay for me while I was there. But just the enormity of the stress behind having to do that is too much. African American women, I live in Texas, a lot of times in some of these spaces that we're in, have to go so hard, and we have to rise to a level that's so high that it's just downright stressful. It's so stressful to always rise to this level of intelligence when somebody is just talking down to you. It's literally putting on the full armor of God to go into some of these spaces. Quite literally putting on the full armor. And this just drove me into a deeper depression. until I started to think about what I was doing. I started to think about where I was. I started to get a little more spiritual. And by spiritual, I went to church. And I went to church. I have a complicated history. I was born into Islam, practiced Islam until my mom divorced my dad, and then she got me baptized just out the blue. So I have both religions in my history, but anyway, I started to go to church, and it made me feel good. So to finish off what I was talking about as related to depression, I was just saying that I experienced all these circumstances, and one of the things that I experienced was hearing God telling me to do an assignment and me not obeying that assignment because of man, and not just man. You know, I was compromising in my marriage, as married people do and married people should do, but not listening to what God told me to do just brought me so much struggle and pain that I don't know if pain would have been on the other side of those decisions had I done what God told me to do the first time. But I didn't do what God told me to do. Why would she do that? I didn't do what God told me to do, and because I didn't do what God told me to do, I was in a position where it wasn't good for me. And so I went to a job that, you know, caused me further stress, and started experiencing challenges with my health. And I'm not going to say it's directly related to not obeying God, but I kind of believe that it is. I kind of believe that when God gives us an assignment or a commandment, we need to obey those commandments regardless of what other people think. And so I compromised in my marriage because I'm a married woman, and you do have to compromise with your spouse as it relates to your household and your finances. But I suffered at the hand of not doing what God told me to do. I suffered. And do I think my household would have suffered? I personally don't think so. But I suffered. I suffered mental, I was depressed. I suffered mental health challenges. And not only mental health challenges, physical health challenges after that. So, yeah, I suffered. And so, but I've been working on it, and I got out of it because I was living in the past, which is the point of me making this video and speaking about depression in the first place. We become depressed because we're living in the past, and we're thinking about all the things that would have, could have, and should have been. And so I decided to stop doing that. I decided to stop living in the past of, I decided to do this, I decided to do that, I didn't obey God. But I have lessons from that though. And so moving forward, to not be in a place of depression, I did ask God for forgiveness for not obeying. And then from there, I stopped living in the past. I stopped reliving those things that were causing me to be depressed. And so what I'm saying to you is, if you are feeling depressed or having depression, you are going to have to, you are actively going to have to stop living in those past decisions. And it's not easy. You know, me making this statement, it's not easy. It's not easy to not look back and say, oh, if I would have did this, I should have did this, I could have did this, this would have been like this. You don't know. You did what you did, move forward. And so to continue to move forward positively, you gotta let that stuff go. And I know I started going back to church when I had gotten depressed. And I remember the pastor saying a long time ago, when I had went to counseling before with my second husband, we went to counseling, and he was, you know, my husband kept bringing up all this stuff in the past about my past, the past. And I remember the pastor saying, like, living in the past is like digging in a toilet. And I was like, what does he mean? But basically what he was saying was, living in the past was like getting poop out of the toilet. Basically, getting poop from the toilet and grabbing hold of it. And that sounds so disgusting, but that's what it is. Living in the past is getting poop out the toilet, y'all. And so, like he used to tell me, stay out the toilet. So I just want to end this with the fact that God created me today. You know, I woke up again today, and that's another part of this rant that I'm saying. Like, you woke up today. Today you're here. Today you're breathing. Today your lungs are moving. Today you have a new chance at doing anything and everything that you want to do. So let's not waste another day thinking about the past and thinking about the things that we could have done. Let's just move forward. Let's move forward. And so that's it. Be grateful and be thankful for today. Be thankful for the opportunities that God has blessed you with. Be thankful for the new day of life. Be thankful that you can see. So let's move past depression and start our days with gratitude. And let's be grateful for the things that we're allowed to do. And that's it, y'all. If you've ever been depressed, you know, tell me how you've gotten out of it. And if you're still in the funk, let's talk about that. There's some things that we can do, and I'm willing to talk to anyone that is suffering depression. Let's talk about it. All right, see you guys in the next video.